große Kolonnen unserer Bewegung heute Siegen durch Deutschland marschieren, dann weiß ich, ihr schließt euch den Kolonnen an. Und wir wissen, vor uns liegt Deutschland, in uns marschiert Deutschland und hinter uns kommt Deutschland.
Okay, guys, come on, come on! Separate the officers for interrogation! That's it! Come on! This side, this side! I'll be damned.
General Spatz, we meet at last.
Reich Marshal Göring.
My wife, my daughter. Your 8th Air Force has destroyed my beautiful Luftwaffe and leveled our beautiful cities. Even so, I prefer to surrender to a fellow airman.
Gentlemen, may I?
Musiden zum Städtle hinaus. Städtle
Unbelievable.
hinaus.
Unbelievable. Those pictures were on every wire service. American officers throwing a party for Hitler's #2 man.
What was the commander thinking?
I'm told it's a code of honor among airmen that transcends politics.
And brains, apparently.
The commander was reprimanded. And Ike has ordered that Goering be treated no differently than any other prisoner of war.
Excuse me? I finagled some real coffee from the Chief Justice's office.
Elsie's the best scavenger in the entire building.
You shouldn't have gone to so much trouble.
Oh, coffee's no trouble. Now a set of tires, that's another story.
I still can't believe he's gone. For me, it was like losing a father. Truly. Whatever I have, whatever I am, it's because of Roosevelt.
I was in London seeing Churchill when the news came. With the end of the war in sight, the president had sent me as his confidant to discuss a rather tricky subject. What to do with captured Nazi leaders.
What was Churchill's opinion?
He said they should be summarily shot for crimes against humanity. What's your opinion?
Well, I think if it's a crime for the Nazis to shoot people without a trial, how could it be less so for us to do the same thing?
That's Truman's feeling exactly. And Churchill now shares that view. Surprisingly enough, so does Stalin.
You're talking about a war crimes trial, which they attempted after the last war and it completely unraveled.
Because it had no weight. But this will be an international tribunal comprised of the 4 powers, America, England, France, and Russia. President Truman wants the best prosecutor in the country, one with a reputation for being tough, but impartial. He wants you, Bob.
I haven't prosecuted a case in years.
President Roosevelt chose you for the Supreme Court because of your integrity as a prosecutor. That's why Truman has picked you for this, because he wants a fair trial, not a legal lynching.
I like it right here, Sam. I mean, this would mean I would have to step down.
Temporary leave of absence. You'll be back in 6 months, maybe 7.
Is the president aware of the fact that I'm completely opposed to the death penalty?
Yes, he's not concerned because he knows you'll do whatever is right.
As you know, a fair trial means an uncertain outcome. If we don't prove the defendant's guilt, we'd have to let them walk, even if we could smell the blood on their hands. Do the Allied powers understand that?
Well, Truman does. You'll have a chance to make it clear to them. The trial is yours to create, Bob. You get to set the rules. Hire the staff, find the setting. You even get to pick the defendants. This trial could unravel, too, like the last attempt, if it is poorly planned, if it is unsound legally or morally. Or it could establish a basis for conduct among nations that would alter history for generations to come.
The trial will be held in Germany. That's what the defendants are, the evidence, witnesses.
Are there any decent hotels still standing? I don't relish the idea of spending months on some dreary army base.
We won't have to worry about that. No wives allowed at Army's request. Bad for morale. You know, all those men over there for years without their...
If you don't want me there, fine. I'll be downstairs whenever you're ready.
-3. 15. Good. 15 plus 7. 22. Good. 9 times 9.
Good morning, General Spatz.
I'm afraid I have to ask you to get dressed and pack for travel.
Where are you moving us?
Only the Reichsmarschall. You're being transferred to Bad Mondorf.
Well, you know, it's a very pleasant spa, but why must I go alone?
Because that's where they're rounding up German war criminals.
No!
I'm sorry about that. Get dressed, please.
You must be brave. Very, very brave. Hedda, you hear? Come on, sweetheart.
I know who you are. It's the Jew butcher of Krakow. And we've seen the camps, too. That cheap bastard!
I must say I was lucky when the arms ministry was destroyed in an air raid in 1943. It rid me of useless paperwork and pencil pushers.
Sir, what do you think was the single most effective thing you did during the war?
When Hitler appointed me his Minister of Armaments, I threw out the military chiefs and turned to the professionals, industrialists and engineers. Then I borrowed the ideas of Walter Rathenau, the great Jewish chief of the German economy during the last war. Standardization of parts, the division of labor, and the maximum use of the assembly line.
Thank you, Dr. Spear. Gentlemen, we'll now break for lunch.
Dr. Albert Spear.
Obviously.
You are under arrest. What made you walk on us?
Move aside. Pay attention, orders are in. Now listen up. You'll all be taken to different places of detention. The following prisoners will go to Bad Mondorf as defendants in future war crimes trials. Step forward. Field Marshal William Keitel. Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz. Colonel General Alfred Jodl. Follow me.
I haven't left Washington since before the war. I couldn't even remember how to pack. I was so worried about bringing half the things that we need for the office, I completely forgot half the things that I need. I have one set of nylons for the entire town, and they already have a run. I mean, I even traded ration coupons with my friend Lois so I could buy nylons.
You are as jittery as a hen. What is the matter with you?
I've never been up in an airplane before.
Morning, Robert.
John?
Bob?
Tom?
Robert.
Good morning. Gentlemen, this is my Chief Secretary, Elsie Douglas. Elsie, this is Tom Dodd, who'll be Deputy Prosecutor.
Well, it's nice to finally meet you, Miss Douglas.
Pleasure.
Colonel John Harlan Amon, who'll be Head of Interrogations.
Miss Douglas.
Colonel Telford Taylor, who'll be the liaison with the other prosecuting teams.
Pleasure.
All mine.
And Colonel Robert Story, who'll be the head of our documents division.
Pleased to meet you, man.
Colonel.
Now that we're all here, let's go.
Military leaders? Political leaders?
Well, what about the bankers and the industrialists who funded the Nazis?
What about the soldiers and civilians who actually carried out the atrocities?
Can't put the whole damn country on trial.
But we do need to suggest the scope of the crimes. I want this trial to be the first of many.
Well, then how about choosing a symbolic figurehead from each category? We cover the whole spectrum. And that way, no one group gets off scot-free.
Makes sense.
Yeah, if we win convictions, we can just keep right on prosecuting Nazis till the cows come home.
But remember, we may also fail to win convictions, in which case some or all of the defendants could go free.
I'm still wrestling with the validity of this trial. Crimes committed during war have never been called crimes.
Let's focus on existing law. What existing laws did the Nazis break?
Well, they broke peace treaties, border treaties, certainly Geneva Convention and Hague Convention.
Right. Every time they invaded a country, they broke a law.
My fear is that at the end of the day, when all is said and done, this trial will be perceived as nothing more than triumph of superior might. The winners exacting punishment on the losers.
Our task is to make sure that this is not the triumph of superior might, but the triumph of superior morality. We're in a very interesting position here. We're in a position to fashion a future in which aggressive war will be dealt with as a crime.
Here, here.
Let's go. Over there. Line up over there. Come on, let's go.
Corporal, new arrivals, identify yourself.
Fritz Saukel,
Sir.
head of labor conscription.
Former head.
Julius Streicher, publisher of... Sir, I can't pronounce it.
Der Stürmer.
It's fifth.
You bankers are Jews. You think I don't know that?
Shut up.
Hjalmar Horace Greeley Schacht, formerly president of the Reichsbank and minister of the economy. I do not understand why I have been accused here.
I'm your jailer, not your lawyer. You'll get your day in court.
Hans Fritzsche, chief of radio operation in the Nazi propaganda ministry. Rudolf Hess, former deputy Führer.
Yes. You.
Joachim von Ribbentrop.
Nazi foreign minister. You.
Colonel, this is Dr. Robert Lai, head of the German Labor Front.
You're Albert Speer?
Yes, sir.
What's wrong with this man?
His mind is not what it used to be.
He's an old drunk. It finally caught up with him.
I said shut up!
Colonel, this man, Streicher, is a disgusting person. A pornographer and a Jew baiter. I do not wish to be out with him.
We make no distinction.
Colonel, we respectfully protest our arrest. We were only following orders, nothing more. As a fellow soldier, surely you must understand.
Now you're no longer a soldier. You are all war criminals. All of you. Lock them up. These Nazi bastards. Where's Dory?
Reichsmarshal Hermann Goering, at your service, sir.
You are in the United States Army stockade at Bad Mondorf. Did they tell you why you were here?
Because we lost the war, and I assumed to be shot or hanged.
That's up to the court.
I've heard of this court. Its opinion does not concern me. The opinion of the German people, that is what really matters.
Is that so?
It is so. History will show that everything I did was for the greater German Reich. There will be statues of Hermann Goering all over Germany in 50 years. Little statues, perhaps, but one in every home.
You're as fat as a house. Starting right now, I'm putting you on a diet. You will be mentally and physically fit to stand trial.
Captain.
Who is it?
Hans Frank, sir. Tried to cut his wrist and throat. These soldiers stopped him before he could do any real damage.
The Jew butcher of Krakow. Corporal, take him to the infirmary. Have him checked out. I want a 4-man watch on him around the clock on the double.
Yes, sir.
Good work, Captain. What's your name?
Gilbert, sir.
You and your men want to chow with us?
Thank you, sir.
You a surgeon?
Psychologist.
What we're faced with, or so it appears, is the secular equivalent of drafting the 10 Commandments. Now, each nation has its own criminal statutes, but for the world at large, none exist.
None are necessary. We're trying war criminals whose guilt is unquestioned by the governments we represent.
General, if we're going to have a trial, it must be based on law. It must be a fair
It
trial.
must only determine degree of guilt and appropriate punishment.
A completely fair trial with opposing counsel, direct examination, and cross-examination.
Precisely.
Before judges that act as referees.
As in a sporting match?
pain in the butt with the toy.
That is not the way it is done in my country.
No, in France, lawyers merely help the accused prepare a defense. They have little role in the court itself.
In the United States, a defendant is entitled to his lawyer's most aggressive representation.
Yes, as in Britain.
You would allow a man such as Ernst Kaltenbrunner, responsible for the Gestapo, concentration camps, for killing millions of innocent people, to stand before a court of law and declare himself not guilty?
That is precisely what we would allow.
20 million of my people were killed by these fascist criminals. Half of them civilians, killed without mercy. How many died in Washington this way, Mr. Justice Jackson?
General, it occurs to me that perhaps separate trials might be the most satisfactory way to reconcile our differences. The United States and the British, along with the French if they choose, will conduct a trial with the Nazis that we currently have in captivity. Kaltenbrunner, Frank, Speer, Goering. And the Russians, of course, would be free to hold their own trial with the ones that you have on hand.
There is no need to be so impulsive. We are, after all, allies. We must try to bridge our differences.
Well, at least the prosecution's a unified group now, even if we did have to compromise with the French and let the judges be the jury.
I must say, your neat little trump card turned Comrade General into a pussycat.
Well, I didn't enjoy playing it. I didn't want to sandbag the poor guy. I would have preferred to convince him.
Oh, your boy was quite convinced by your subtle reminder that we've got most of the big Nazi fish, while they only have a couple of minnows.
Nonetheless, I couldn't argue his point. My country was spared the worst of it. No bombed-out cities, no slaughtered children. I couldn't begin to know. How is it you could look out on all of this and still want to guarantee these men a vigorous defense?
I want to put National Socialism on trial, so they'll incriminate themselves. Besides, I don't ever want this to happen again. Well, there's no question you're the undisputed leader in all this. Today proved that. So when we finish our work here, you better go to Germany, find a place for the trial. If anything still exists, that is.
Robert, I can't believe this. When my brother came here as a college student, I still have the picture book he brought me. It was nothing like this. This isn't even the same city. There were medieval bridges and gingerbread houses.
This was also the site of some of Hitler's biggest rallies. Nuremberg was the spiritual center of the Third Reich. General Clay, what are the odds, really, of finding the housing we'll need for the thousands of people that will be attending this trial?
Army guarantees it. Parts of the city were untouched by the bombings. There's hundreds of fine houses, some vacant, others whose owners are desperate for money.
What's that smell?
There's still around 30,000 bodies trapped under the rubble.
Ready? Yeah. Follow me.
Grand old Palace of Justice. A landmark in more ways than one. Took 5 bomb hits, but just shrugged them off.
Courtroom's upstairs, offices, that whole wing there, and behind that wall, all the jail cells you'll need. Okay, just right this way. Justice Jackson, the courtroom. This is a mess. It'll take a lot of work. A lot of work.
But it's doable.
Bob? Ten Commandments.
10 Commandments in the same building where the Nuremberg laws were decreed that deprived old German Jews of their rights. This is it. This is the place to hold the trial.
Give me the word and I'll have General Patton move in 15,000 German POWs. Start cleaning up the whole city.
I'm giving you that word right now.
Captain Kiley, what do you think?
Well, we'll need to double the size of the courtroom. Have to take out that rear wall and cut into the attic for a visitor's gallery. Saw some terrific seats in an old theater here.
Great.
Chandelier's gotta go. Fluorescent's more practical and let's...
Our Palace of Justice is going to see some justice once again.
Sir, this was just forwarded from the base.
Thank you very much, Sergeant.
Fuchs. Morris Fuchs, Brooklyn, New York.
Well, I knew it wasn't Wisconsin with that accent, Fuchs. Thank you. President Truman wants to appoint Francis Biddle as the American judge for the trial.
Are you serious? But he already fired Biddle as Attorney General. Why would he do that?
Guilt, maybe? Probably. I guess it's this instead of a gold watch.
How do you feel about that?
Well, read Truman's wording. Unless you have a problem with this, which means...
Don't have a problem with this.
Well, I've got to go back to Washington and brief President Truman anyway. I can stop in Philadelphia along the way and try to cajole Biddle into becoming a team player.
When do we leave?
I need you to stay here and set up our offices, find us a place to stay.
Make those decisions without you?
Oh, that'll be fine. I trust you.
Bob? Bob?
When your name is called, get your ass on the truck. Von Papen. Sure.
When we board the plane, get a seat by the window, dear boy. It may be the last view we have of the fatherland.
Alfred Jodl. Von Schirach. Almar Schack. Rosenberg. Von Neurath. Frick. Sockel. Albert Spear. William Keitel.
I couldn't face going back into private practice. Not after all those years in Washington. The nerve center of the country, the war. What is the current status in Nuremberg?
Oh, we're gathering evidence, choosing defendants. We've settled on 22 men. We've narrowed our targets to those who ran the concentration camps.
Good thinking, splendid.
The ones who gathered the slave labor as well as those that used it.
Absolutely. Absolutely right.
The judges will have a great deal of work ahead of them with the pretrial discovery.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, of course, you'll be there to guide me through it. I'm thrilled, Bob. It's an honor. This means a great deal to me. Am I safe in calling the president and telling him that you've signed off on me? That I'm approved as chief American judge?
I'll arrange your flight this week. We need you over there as quickly as possible. We need to gear up fast. The trial's in 1 month.
We'll have dessert in Nuremberg.
All right. Hey, come on, slow down. Take it easy.
I've got to say, I find it a little unnerving walking past 300 German POWs carrying pickaxes.
That's why you got a bodyguard. Just let one of them try and mess with you. You want the desk sideways?
No, light from the side gives him a headache.
Well, you really take good care of this guy.
Well, that's my job.
That's fine.
Perfect. Oh, could you please find Captain Kiley? I want to know if the filing cabinets are ready.
Sure thing.
First thing you must understand about these men is that they are war criminals.
Their rank means nothing. There's to be no exchanging of salutes or any other military courtesy. Now, I know most of you men saw combat. You lost friends, companions. We've all seen the bodies at the side of the road. Men who gave their lives in the service of their country. Gave their lives so that we might have the opportunity to bring these criminals to justice. Now, our job is to make sure that these criminals survive long enough to have that justice served. To make sure that our friends, our companions, did not die in vain. That'll be all.
Stand you!
On your feet. Swab yourself.
I beg your pardon?
Der bucket and der mop. Use them. Pick it up. Pick them up now. Pick him up. Hey! Lieutenant! Hey! With us! Back off!
Easy, easy. Okay. Put him down. Easy. That's it. Easy. Okay.
Doctor?
He'll rest now. His heartbeat was up to almost 300 beats a minute. Could have led to heart failure.
That's just great. That's just what I need. To lose the biggest bull in the roundup. Lieutenant.
Wheeler, sir.
I'm making this man your personal responsibility. He is not to exert himself. As God is my witness, he will be in the best of health when they hang him.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Lieutenant Ayres, with your permission, I shall call you Lieutenant.
That's fine, sir.
Good. Huh.
Thanks for the ride, Fuchs.
No problem.
Robert! Welcome back.
Nice to be back.
It's really good to have you back. So,
Quite a job you've done here.
you should see the inside. Come on.
Excellent work. Captain,
Kylie.
What's your background, Kylie?
A couple of architecture classes. Never got a degree.
Neither did I.
Are you serious? You're a justice of the Supreme Court.
You know, I practiced law for 20 years with only a single year of law school under my belt. Things were a lot easier back then.
Shouldn't go around giving away your secrets.
I won't tell if you won't tell. How are we making out with these gizmos for the simultaneous translation?
IBM's sort of inventing the process as we go, sir, but we'll be ready for you. I promise.
I don't doubt that.
Excuse me.
Question is, will we be ready?
The whole team's waiting in your office. They'll fill you in.
I missed you.
I missed you, too.
You know, when I was home, I couldn't find a phone number, I couldn't find a document.
Well, now you won't have to worry about that.
I'll take Gary.
Should be fun.
Tom, I'd like you to do Spear.
My pleasure.
I'd also like you to take on Shurock and Funk.
Good.
Are the indictments ready to be served?
Yeah.
I say we hold off until the last possible moment. Until they're indicted, we get to treat them like POWs. We can interrogate them all day long. Once they're indicted...
Once they're indicted, they're entitled to have their lawyers present. Fellas, this is going to be a fair trial. Let's serve those indictments as soon as possible. But if the British deliver the indictments, wouldn't be right for us to hog the whole show now.
What if the defendants want Nazi lawyers?
Oh, hell no. What kind of crazy example would that set?
Free speech?
For crying out loud, boys. Nazis defending Nazis when they ought to be on trial themselves. And we're gonna pay them?
Can't help wondering what these fellows would do if the situation was reversed and they had us on trial.
Well, we don't have to answer that question in this room right now. The judges will be here in 1 week. We'll let them decide. Would you excuse me for one moment?
This just arrived from Bill. He's decided not to fly. He's coming over on the Queen Elizabeth. He'll be here in 3 weeks.
I'm a bit surprised at Biddle. I'd never seen a man so hungry for approval.
Well, yeah, but then you approved him, Bob.
I did learn a lesson there, didn't I? And how I hate learning lessons.
Don't you think this is a little bit excessive?
I got it for a really good price.
Thank you. Justice Jackson, meet Frau Hassel and Herr Hassel.
Willkommen.
How do you do? I have lived 5 years in America.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Frau Hassel.
Please come in. Follow me, bitte, bitte. I will prepare dinner, something light perhaps at this hour.
Thank you.
Light means 5 pounds of lard in the dumplings instead of 6.
So who owns this place?
Some banker who no longer owns a bank. I think we're his only source of income now. Come on.
Oh, thank you, Herr Hassel. I'll do that.
Dankeschön.
So where is your room?
Upstairs. It's a cute little attic apartment type thing.
Is it all right?
Well, it's nicer than what I have in Washington, Bob.
Well, I haven't seen what you have in Washington. Oh, God, I am so bushed.
Just hold on till dinner. Would you like a drink?
No, maybe later on.
Oh, don't do that. Oh, I've arranged a little breakfast meeting with the team tomorrow morning.
Good, good.
Just to go over some of the finer points.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you sure pack well, Bob. Aw, Bob.
Start with this one.
I hope I shan't make a balls of it.
Do just fine, old chap. Open up.
Good morning. I am Major Neve. I'm the officer appointed by the International Military Tribunal to serve upon you.
Wait. You're British?
I am.
Finally, a civilized man. Neve. Neve. What is your given name?
Airy.
Airy. Major Airy Neve. I have heard this name before. Airy, like the wind. Why would I have heard this name?
I was captured, tortured by the Gestapo, and escaped twice.
Ah, I see. Well, you've earned your given name.
I am the officer appointed by the International Military Tribunal to serve upon you a copy of the indictment in which you are named as defendant. I am also here to advise you as to your rights to counsel.
I care nothing for lawyers. You can find one for me, Major Airy of the Wind. We're men of culture. We both know the truth. The victors will always be the judges. The vanquished, always the accused. Yes?
Open it up.
Until I've studied this, I cannot speak to the accuracy of the charges against me. But I acknowledge the necessity of this trial and accept my inclusion in it.
How can you say that before reading the charges?
There's a common responsibility for the crimes that were committed in the name of the Third Reich. No one is blameless, apart from the victims.
But we were just following orders.
I know nothing about crimes against humanity.
Here's a list of lawyers.
Jews. No Judeans! I want to be defended by a German naval officer.
I was a lawyer myself, full of ideals.
Why don't you just shoot us now? Why don't you just shoot us now?
I want a guard posted at the porthole of every cell. They're to be watched around the clock. I will not have them taking the easy way out.
I need to pick up a document from the document room.
I'll meet you in the office.
Find any directives on Polish slave labor?
Oh, take your pick. You know, there's something peculiar about the German character that makes them keep detailed records of every damn thing they do. It's downright perverse. The Nazis put into writing every criminal thought they ever had and every criminal act they ever did. Right here in this room is enough evidence to hang half the country.
I'll settle for 21 clean convictions.
Yeah.
I expect we'll be here quite late, Frau Russell. Don't worry about dinner. We'll manage on our own. Thank you. Get what you need?
More than.
I've arranged all your random notes for the opening statement into something less random. Legal, thematic, anecdotal, precedent, theory.
You really are something, you know that?
Well, when you decide what, let me know. Oh my God.
Oh, I don't believe this. I've noticed that this case has really inspired the orator in you.
Well, I've tried to capture a tone, a mood for the entire case. A melancholy grandeur, if you will.
Well, it's all here.
You have something right here.
We only have 2 days left to finish the speech. Maybe you should start dictating.
Right.
This simultaneous translation business, like taking a room in the Tower of Babel. And this I can assure you, whoever designed those electronic earmuffs...
Earphones, Sir Geoffrey.
Earphones. Whoever designed them did not try them over a barrister's wig.
Well, not to worry, I knew they'll be most becoming.
I changed my style a little, I think.
Who's that over there?
He's a psychologist. The Army transferred him over here to consult on the suicide risk of the prisoners. Excuse me one moment.
Cheers.
Bob. Francis, I had arranged for a flight to pick you up. You were meant to be here 2 weeks ago. What happened? You developed a sudden craving for shuffleboard?
I just needed a little time to get myself up to speed. I worked the whole way over. I'm fully prepared. Any of my colleagues here, I'd like to meet them.
Perhaps later on. I need to talk to you about something.
You must try some vodka.
No, thank you.
Oh, you must try some. It makes it very strong. Oh, but we do it all the time in
you
Russia.
can't mix it.
Oh, we do in Russia all the time.
Not in France. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Look at this, Bob. It was a gift from my family. After the trial, I'm going to donate this along with my papers to my alma mater. I think future generations...
Francis, on the subject of who will serve as president of the court, the British are prepared to support you, but...
Yes?
But it's not in the best interest of the trial. The Americans are far too dominant in this thing already. The trial must be viewed as a joint effort.
I really do have the qualifications.
I know you do.
If not me, then who?
Sir Geoffrey Lawrence. The British share our sensibilities, and it's a hell of a lot better than having Devab or God knows Nikitchenko. I think I can sell the French on this idea, too.
Everyone back home assumes that I will be head of the court.
Francis, your role here will be of incredible importance.
This is probably the last appointment of my career, Bob. This is how I'm going out.
With great honor. Francis, you will be capping your career with great honor.
Now that Lay's done himself in, who should we get to replace him in the dock?
It's not a Broadway show, Johnny. We don't just bring out an understudy.
We've still got 21 left. 21's a good, solid number.
Boys, they're coming back.
Ooh, Biddle doesn't look too happy.
Well, can you blame him?
Gentlemen, if I may, I'd like to introduce Judge Francis Biddle.
Oh, nice to see you.
Sir Geoffrey Lawrence.
Yes, I'm delighted
to do so.
Judge Devab.
David Maxwell Fife.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, a salute to my colleagues in the law. How fortunate we are to be in a profession where we may speak our minds, and not like diplomats who must behave like dogs on a leash. To the law. To the law.
I was wondering if you'd care to dance with me.
I'm not much of a dancer.
Well, let's go embarrass ourselves.
It's my opinion head shrinking has no place in this man's army. But you've been assigned to me, Captain, and I plan to make full use of you. You're going to help me make sure I don't lose any more of my prisoners.
Well, from what I already know of your setup here, Colonel, I can safely say that you've created the perfect suicide ward.
What are you talking about?
These men have nothing to do all day but sit around and think about their fate.
Well, they should think about it.
If you want to keep them alive and sane, you need to keep them occupied, both mentally and physically. A small library, for instance.
Library?
A library would make all the difference in the world. So would an exercise yard.
Well, I had something quite different in mind. I thought I might put you in their life. Give them somebody to talk to, open up with. I'm sure they'll jump at the chance to jibber-jabber with somebody as bright and enthusiastic as yourself. They'll tell you what they're thinking, what they're planning. And you report everything you hear to me.
Colonel.
I don't want to hear anything about morals and ethics, Captain. These men are prisoners, criminals, not patients. That's the deal, Captain. Take it or leave it.
The library and the exercise yard, sir.
You got it.
This place is worse than I expected. What a nightmare. Where do we pick up our press passes?
The Palace of Justice.
What's the metal bar in the front of the Jeep do?
Works like a knife to cut the wires that Germans string across the road at night. Several GIs have already been decapitated.
Lovely.
Here we are, gentlemen. I'll take your bags to the hotel.
All right, thanks a lot, buddy.
See you around.
Press credentials ready to show. You will be given press passes and transferred to assigned lodging. Get in line, gentlemen, get in line!
Check this out.
Vita, nice and tight, yes, please.
Das ist
Dankeschön.
Berlin, Berlin, die ewig junge Stadt, das ist Berlin, Berlin, die meine Liebe hat, genau im Mittelpunkt der Welt, hat sie der Herrgott hier gestellt. Du mein Berlin, Berlin, du Perle an der Spree, wer dich erst...
Rudolph, you put it on the wrong foot.
What?
The shoe.
Yeah.
This seems completely mad.
It is an act. He is being clever.
If he was so clever, he wouldn't have spent the last 4 years in an English prison.
I turned my diaries over to the Americans voluntarily. You see, they proved that I tried to resign as Governor General of Poland. Did not approve of the persecution of the Jews. Anyone reading my diaries, they will know what was in my heart. They will understand that those things I wrote about the Jews, the orders I signed, they were not sincere.
I believe you, Herr Frank. And yet, you did do those things. How do you explain it? I don't mean legally. I'm not a lawyer or a judge. I mean, how do you explain it to yourself?
I don't know. It's as though I'm two people. The Hans Frank you see here, and Hans Frank, the Nazi leader. I wonder how that other Frank could do those things. This Frank looks at that Frank and says, "You're a terrible man."
And what does that Frank say back?
He says, "I just wanted to keep my job."
Friends, when we begin this grotesque farce tomorrow, my friends, never forget that we are here for one reason, and one reason only. We lost the war. But someday, a grateful German nation will honor our legacy. Doctor, what do you have? You have one German. You have a fine man. 2 Germans, a Bund. 3 Germans, a war.
Are you really in such a good mood, Herr Goering? Or is this your way of handling fear?
Fear? What do I have to be afraid of? I've ordered hundreds and thousands of men into battle, knowing full well that not many would return. Why should I, their leader, tremble when called upon to face the enemy? I know that I am a condemned man. That is of no consequence. There is still work to be done. And mark my words, it will be done. One Englishman, an idiot. 2 Englishmen, a club. 3 Englishmen, an empire.
I spoke with some of the translators today to get a sense of the pace you need to maintain. It's a little tricky because it's not just about pace, it's about rhythm, pausing at the end of phrases. We should probably rehearse a little tonight. Not the whole speech, you need to save your voice for tomorrow. This is unbelievable.
Good morning, Lieutenant Wheelers.
Morning, sir. It's time to go, Reichsmarshal.
How do I look?
You look fine, sir. How do you feel?
Excited. I've waited many months of silence. Now at last I'm being heard. Shall we?
I'm not allowed to do that, sir.
Ah, yes, of course.
Bring him out! Puff him up! Puff him out!
All right, Sergeant. Search the cells.
No.
Sir Geoffrey, with my respects.
Bless you, little.
After you.
All rise.
This trial, which is now to begin, is unique in the annals of jurisprudence. The defendants, all having been served with copies of the indictments, are now to enter their pleas. Hermann Göring.
I have a statement which I will now read to the court.
The defendants are not to make a speech. They are only to enter a plea.
I declare myself, in the sense of the indictment, nicht schuldig, not guilty.
Rudolf Hess.
Nein. Nein.
Record that as not guilty. Joachim von Ribbentrop.
Nicht schuldig.
Wilhelm Keitel.
Nicht schuldig.
Ernst Kaltenbrunner.
Ich bekenne mich nicht schuldig.
Alfred Rosenberg.
Nicht schuldig.
Hans Frank.
Nicht schuldig.
Wilhelm Frick.
Nicht schuldig.
Julius Streicher.
Nicht schuldig.
Walter Funk.
Nicht schuldig.
Hjalmar Schacht.
Nicht schuldig.
Karl Dönitz.
Nicht schuldig.
Erich Reder.
Nicht schuldig.
Baldur von Schirach.
Nicht schuldig.
Fritz Saukel.
Nicht schuldig.
Alfred Jodl.
Nicht schuldig.
Franz von Papen.
Nicht schuldig.
Arthur Seyß-Inquart.
Nicht schuldig.
Albert Speer.
Nicht schuldig.
Konstantin von Neurath.
Nicht schuldig.
And Hans Fritscher.
Nicht schuldig.
All the pleas have now been entered. Justice Jackson, your opening address, please.
May it please your honors. The privilege of opening the first trial in history for crimes against the peace of the world imposes a grave responsibility. The wrongs which we seek to condemn and punish have been so calculated, so malignant, and so devastating that civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored because it cannot survive their being repeated. That four great nations, flushed with victory and stung with injury, stay the hand of vengeance and voluntarily submit their captive enemies to the judgment of the law is one of the most significant tributes that power has ever paid to reason. If these men are the first war leaders of a defeated nation to be prosecuted in the name of the law, we agree that here they must be given a presumption of innocence. And we accept the burden of proving criminal acts and the responsibility of these defendants for their commission. We have no purpose here to incriminate the whole German people. Hitler did not achieve power by a majority vote, but seized it by an evil alliance of revolutionists, reactionaries, and militarists. You will hear today and in the days ahead of the enormity and the horror of their acts. The prosecution will give you undeniable proofs of these incredible events. I count myself as one who received during this war most atrocity tales with suspicion or skepticism. No more. The catalog of crimes will omit nothing that could be conceived by their pathological pride, cruelty, and lust for power. You will hear of the repression of organized labor, the harassment of the church, the persecution of the Jews, the conversion of mere anti-Semitism into the deliberate extermination of the Jews of Europe. You will hear of the long series of German aggressions and conquests and broken treaties, the terror that settled over Germany, the havoc wrought in the occupied territories. And you will know that the real complaining party at your bar is civilization. Civilization asks whether law is so laggard as to be utterly helpless to deal with crimes of this magnitude by criminals of this order of importance. It does not expect that you can make war impossible. It does expect that your juridical action will put the forces of international law, its precepts, its prohibitions, and above all, its sanctions, on the side of peace, so that men and women of goodwill in all countries may have leave to live by no man's leave, underneath the law.
The court is now adjourned.
Jackson's speech, pedantic. Tiresome lot of nothing. I nodded off twice.
Well, the food is better today. You think they'll feed us like this every day? They always feed you well before they hang you.
Yeah, that's so true. They can't hang us. We're soldiers. They have to shoot us.
Please, stop this talk. We must concentrate on our defense.
If you're not going to eat, Frank, give it to me. It's a crime to have such good food.
Look what they have done to your beautiful city.
Nuremberg is not mine.
But it was. Was anything ever more extraordinary than the Parteitagen you stage here every September? The night skies would light up like a bonfire as we carried our torches through the streets, 250,000 of us on the way to the Zeppelin fields. I remember standing there for hours, basking in the radiance of the Fuhrer. And then I would take a group of my Hitlerjungen to the river where we'd bathe together. We had to cool off from the fires that were burning within us. But now that just seems like a dream. A strange, wonderful, frightening dream.
It was not a dream. It was a nightmare. Of our own making, and it's time to wake up from it. The look in Hitler's eyes was not radiance. It was madness.
Is the British prosecution ready?
Yes, indeed we are. Your Honors, with your permission, I wish to read from a sworn affidavit by one Hermann Friedrich Graeber, a German construction manager who, in a civilian capacity, was employed by the German army in occupied Ukraine from 1941 to 1944. On several occasions, he observed the mass murders of local Jews committed by the SS or Schutzstaffel, the Nazi party's police and security organization. One such occasion, he writes, took place on October the 5th, 1942, near the city of Dobno. That morning, Herr Graebe was informed that all 5,000 Jews from that city were to be taken by SS trucks to a place near his building site, where they were to be shot and buried in large pits. He continues. Thereupon I drove to the site and saw near it great mounds of earth. Several SS trucks stood in front of them. I heard rifle shots in quick succession coming from behind one of the earth mounds. Those who had just got off the trucks, men, women, and children of all ages, had to undress upon the order of an SS man who carried a whip. All these people had the regulation yellow patches on their clothes and thus could be recognized as Jews. And without screaming or weeping, these people undressed, stood around in family groups, kissed each other, said their farewells. I watched a family of about 8, a man and a woman with their children and 2 grown-up daughters. An old woman with snow white hair was holding the youngest, perhaps 1 year old, in her arms and singing to it and tickling it, and the child was cooing with delight. All the people around were looking on with tears in their eyes. The father was holding the hand of a boy about 10 years old and speaking to him softly. The boy was fighting his tears. The father pointed to the sky, stroked the boy's head, and seemed to explain something to him. At that moment, the SS man at the pit shouted to his comrades. The latter counted off about 30 persons and instructed them to go behind the earth mound. Among them was the family that I have mentioned. I well remember a girl, slim and with black hair, who, as she passed close to me, pointed to herself and said, 23. I then walked around the mound and found myself confronted by an enormous grave. People were closely wedged together and lying on top of each other so that only their heads were visible. Nearly all had blood running over their shoulders. Some of the people shot were still moving. Some were lifting their arms and turning their heads to show that they were still alive. The pit was at least 2/3 full. I estimated that it already contained about 1,000 humans. The victims, completely naked, went down some steps which were cut out of the clay wall of the pit and clambered over the heads of the people lying there to the place where the SS man had directed them. They lay down in front of the dead or injured. Some caressed those who were still alive and spoke to them in low voices. Then I heard a series of shots. I looked back into the pit and saw that the bodies were twitching, and the heads, lying already motionless, were on top of the bodies that lay beneath them. When I walked back around the mound, I noticed another truckload which had just arrived. This time it included the sick and the infirm. An old, very thin, very frail woman, with terribly thin legs, was undressed by the others who were already naked, while two people held her up. The woman was obviously paralyzed. The naked people carried the old woman around the mound. And the shooting continued. Signed, Friedrich Graeber.
Did any of you ever hear of this Graeber? Huh?
Rough day, Reichsmarschall?
On the contrary, we had an excellent lunch, nice view of the city. And in the courtroom, we had the best seats in the house.
Cuffs off! They go on about this Graeber person. It doesn't concern us. We were not even mentioned.
You must have very little evidence against us.
I always suspected the British prosecutor was a Jew. Now I am sure of it.
Shut up, Saga! Please don't be so naive. We're on trial. Of course they're going to say terrible things about us. They have not even begun.
Lock him up!
Happy dreams, Lieutenant.
Good night, Reichsmarschall.
Your Honors, I would like to read into the record document 294 PS, which describes manpower initiatives and how they were directed.
Mr. Justice Jackson, you have already read into record 8 nearly identical documents on this subject. Do you really feel it necessary to introduce a 9th?
I do. Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Very well. Please continue.
Document 294 PS begins as follows.
Lieutenant, I have come to the conclusion that the sentences are already being carried out. Justice Jackson means to bore us to death, and he is succeeding beyond his fondest hopes. Now the Fuhrer, what a speaker. At a rally here in Nuremberg, he held an audience of 250,000 people in the palm of his hand for an entire afternoon.
As legal strategy, your documentary approach has been unassailable. But as drama, it is, I regret to say, absolutely stultifying.
Well, as you know, it's not meant to be an entertainment. It's meant to be a trial.
And it's ours to lose.
A trial is a show, Robert. And like it or not, it's a show. And those four learned men sitting on the bench are as impressionable as any audience.
You're pushing for witnesses?
Witnesses will give this trial a human face. One compelling witness can outweigh a ton of documentary evidence.
Mr. Petcheleg, while you were imprisoned at Dachau, were you at one time asked to participate in a medical experiment?
Yes.
And the Nazi doctor who supervised that experiment, Dr. Rascher, did he ever explain to you its purpose?
He said the Luftwaffe had a problem, that its pilots shot down over the North Sea often survived the crash into freezing waters, only to die later after being rescued. The purpose of the experiment was to prevent these deaths.
And what experiment did he devise?
First, I helped to strip other male inmates naked and put them into water tanks.
You were forced to do this to fellow inmates?
Yes.
And then?
Then we added large pieces of ice. We put thermometers into their rectums to make sure the men were freezing. Then some of them we plunged into hot water, others in warm water, others we put next to naked female inmates so the doctor could learn which method would best revive them.
Mr. Petcheleg, would you be so kind as to read this conclusion from Dr. Rascher's meticulous records?
Rapid rewarming was in all cases preferable to slow rewarming because after removal from the cold water, the body temperature continued to drop rapidly. Rewarming by animal warmth was too slow.
Thank you. Mr. Petcheleg, do you recall whatever became of the subjects of Dr. Rascher's experiments on behalf of the Luftwaffe?
Most of them went into convulsions and died.
Thank you.
In 1942, I was arrested, interrogated, and then ordered to sign a false confession. I refused. The German officer threatened me. I told him, I'm not afraid of being shot. He said, we have means at our disposal that are far worse than being shot.
Please continue, madame.
Soon afterwards, I found myself packed with 230 other French women in a sealed train on our way to Auschwitz.
A sealed train?
No food, no water, nothing. At Auschwitz, the trains ran almost all the way to the gas chamber. They unsealed the cars, and the soldiers let everyone out. I saw men, women, children, old couples forced apart from each other. mothers made to abandon their children. None were aware of the fate that awaited them. Those selected for the gas chamber were immediately driven to a red brick building. I saw my friend, Annette, on that truck. She called to me. Think of my little boy if you ever get back to France. Then she put her arms around another French woman, and they began singing La Marseillaise. One night, we were awakened by horrible cries. The next day, we learned that the Nazis had run out of gas, and the children had been thrown into the furnaces alive.
Of the 230 women on that train, how many returned from Auschwitz?
49.
Thank you, madam. You're excused.
There you are. The film came in late last night, and I was up until dawn watching it. Now, very few people have seen this film. Bob, you have got to enter this into evidence this morning.
What's the film?
You're not gonna believe this.
May it please the tribunal, the United States now offers a film into evidence. It was compiled from motion pictures taken by Allied military photographers as their armies liberated areas into which concentration camps were located.